Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. We are from group AS1205I and today in this video presentation we will be discussing coordination compound for the subject CHM361. Before we start our presentation, let me introduce our team members starting with myself, Nur Hazatul Salwa binti Syah Hasan, followed by Nur Aisyah Zahira binti Azizah, Nur Najma Atira binti Suhaimi, Nurul Ayuni binti Razad, and lastly we have Nur Anwar Afika binti Yahya.
This is the first part on this slide. Introduction to coordination compound. What we know as a coordination compound. Coordination compound is a compound that consists of complex ion, which is metal ion, bond to ligand, and the counter ion that balance the charge. Secondly, coordination compound formed when a transition metal acts as a Lewis acid that accepts the electron and the ligand act as a Lewis base that donate electron. In this coordination compound, we have three components. First, central metal ion. Second, ligand. And the last one is coordination sphere. For the central metal ion, it's usually a transition metal that mentions its oxidation state. For example, cobalt 3+, chromium 3+, and ferrum 3+. Ligand is a molecule or ion that donates a pair of electrons to metal via coordinate covalent bond. Last one is coordination sphere. Everything inside the bracket is a part of complex ion and doesn't dissociate in water. Why is coordination compound are important? There is three reasons that we state in this slide. First, bonding versatility that demonstrate how metal ion can be surrounded by a specific number of ligands to form a stable species as complex ion. Number two is isomerism. Isomerism allow to study of stereoisomerism and structural isomerism, which is crucial for understanding how the different arrangement affect a molecule function. Last one is structural diversity. Coordination number determine the geometry of a compound leading to various structure like linear, tetrahedral, square planar, or octahedral. I have given a few examples in this slide that relates why the coordination compound is important.
Hi, now let's move on to the types of ligand. So first, what is the ligand? Okay, let's go through. A ligand is a molecule or ion that donates a pair of electrons to a metal ion. Ligand is a really play an important role in forming coordination compound by bonding with the central metal ion. Ligand also can be classified based on the number of donor atoms they use bond with the metal. Okay, so we have two types of ligand. So first one is monodated ligands and the second one is bidated ligand. So let's start with the monodated ligands. Monodated ligands is they donate one pair electrons to the metal ion through one donor atom only. Common example we use is water H2O and another one is ammonia NH3. The ligand attached to the metal ion at only one bonding site, so they use one donor atom. So the next is we have the bidated ligand. Bidated ligand is a donate two pair of electrons to the metal ion using two donor atoms. For example, we use ethylene diamine, also we call EN, and the oxalate ion because they bond at 2 points. Bidated ligand usually form more stable complex. So, the main difference between monodated and bidated ligand lies in the number of donor atoms used to bond with the metal ion. Now, let's talk about the coordination number. As shown on the slide, the coordination number refers to the number of ligand atoms that are directly bonded to the central metal ion. Okay, as you can see here on the right side of the slide, we can see the most common coordination number are 4 and 6. This is really important because the coordination number we use to determine the shape and geometry of the coordination complex. Now, let's look at the comparison shown in the table. So first, we have two, right? Coordination number of 4 and coordination number of 6. So, we go through for the coordination number of 4. The metal ion is the bonded to the 4 ligand atoms As shown here, this is usually result in the tetrahedral or square panel shapes, where the ligands are arranged around the metal ion in the 4 position. For coordination number of 6, the metal ion is bonded to the 6th ligand atom. This arrangement commonly forms an octahedral shape, with the ligand arranged symmetrically around the metal ion. So, by the comparing coordination number of 4 and 6, we can clearly see how the number of ligands are directly affect the arrangement, shapes, and the overall geometry of the coordination number complex. For this slide, I will explain why the shape of the coordination complex is actually important. The shape of the coordination complex does not just affect structure, but it also affects color, stability, and chemical properties. So first, let's talk about the color. When the ligand arrange themselves differently around a metal ion, they change how the d electron absorb light. Because different shape cause different energy level splittings. The complex absorb different wavelength of the light. As a result, coordination compounds can appear in different colors such as blue, green, or purple. So next is stability. Some shapes are more stable than others because the ligands are arranged in a way that minimize ligand repulsion. At the same time, the metal ligand bonding become more optimal, making the complex energetically more stable. This is why certain geometries are preferred in the coordination compound. Finally, the shape also affects chemical properties. The reactivity and chemical behavior of the coordination complex depend on its geometry. Different shapes expose different parts of the metal ions, which can influence how the complex react with other substances. So, the shape of a coordination complex plays a major role in determining its color, stability, and chemical properties, making it a very important concept in coordination chemistry.
So, now I will explain what coordination compound that exists around us. So now, let's take a look at the first coordination compound. First one is cisplatin. Cisplatin is a platinum coordination compound that is widely used in chemotherapy for cancer treatment. In this complex, platinum acts as the central metal ion surrounded by ligands. Inside cancer cell, cisplatin works by binding to a DNA, especially at specific bases. This binding damages the DNA structure and prevents the cancer from multiplying and dividing. As a result, the growth of the cancer will be slowed down or stopped. Before we proceed to the next slide, I will explain the mechanism of cisplatin. So first, cisplatin works by entering the cancer cells through membrane cells. Once inside the cells, the cisplatin will be activated. Next, cisplatin will bind to the DNA in the nucleus, and then it forms strong bond with the DNA strands, which causes the DNA to damage. This damage prevents DNA transcription and replication, so the cancer cells cannot divide or function properly. As a result, the damaged DNA will trigger cells death, also known as apoptosis. So this is how cisplatin works, helps to kill cancer cells. However, some cancer cells can develop a resistance to cisplatin. So this can happen when less cisplatin enters the cells or when the drug is pumped out of the cells. So in conclusion, cisplatin is effective because it damages the DNA and induces cell death, but drug resistance can reduce its effectiveness. So now, let's take a look at the second one. The second one is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is an iron coordination complex found in red blood cells. In this complex, iron or Fe2+ acts as a central metal ion surrounded by a polyphenols ring as its ligand. The main function of hemoglobin is to bind oxygen in the lungs. It then transports and releases oxygen to the body tissue, allowing cells to carry out respiration and produce energy. Without this coordination complex, oxygen transport in the body would not be possible. This matters because coordination compounds plays a very important role in both medicines and biology. In medicines, coordination compounds such as cisplatin are used to treat cancers and help save life. In biology, coordination compounds are essential for life processes such as oxygen transport by hemoglobin and photosynthesis process by chlorophyll. This example shows that coordination chemistry is not only theoretical but also crucial in our everyday life.
Okay, for this part, I will be explaining the relationship between bonding and color in coordination compound. To understand this, we will look at three main concepts, which is valence bond theory, crystal field theory, and d orbital splitting. First, let's start with valence bond theory or VBT. VBT explains bonding in coordination compound through the overlap of orbital. The central metal ion provide empty s, p, or d orbitals, and ligands donate lone pair of electrons into this orbital. Because of this overlap, coordinate covalence bonds are formed between the metal ion and the ligands. However, VBT has some limitation. It cannot explain the color of the coordination compound and also cannot fully explain their magnetic properties. So, VBT is considered limited when compared to crystal field theory. Next, we move on to crystal field theory or CBT. Unlike VBT, CBT describes bonding as an electrostatic interaction between a positively charged metal ion and negatively charged ligand or neutral ligands with lone pair. When ligands approach the metal ion, they cause the d orbital of the metal to split into different energy levels. This splitting is important because CBT can explain the color of coordination compound as well as their magnetic properties. Now let's look at the orbital splitting in more detail. In a free metal ion, all 5 d orbital have the same energy. However, when ligand approach the metal ion, the degeneracy is removed and the d orbital split. In an octahedral complex, the 5 d orbital split into two sets, which is the T2G orbital have lower energy while the EG orbital have higher energy. The energy difference between these two sets is known as the crystal field splitting energy. This energy difference determines which wavelength of light is absorbed, and the remaining light is what we observe as the color of the complex. So, in summary, VBT help explain basic bonding, see how ligand attach to the metal ion. But as we can see, CBT and d orbital splitting are more useful in explaining color and magnetic properties in coordination compound. Next, why transition metal complex are colored? So basically, I will start with electrons excitation. In a transition metal complex, electrons normally occupy to the lower energy T2G orbital. When visible light is absorbed, the energy from the light excites the electrons, so they move from the T2G orbital to the higher energy EG orbital. And this excitation actually requires energy level equal to the crystal field splitting energy. So, transition metal ion have partially filled the d orbitals, and because of that, this d transition can happen. But not all wavelength of visible light are absorbed. Some of the light is reflected or transmitted, and basically, this remaining light is what we see as the color of the complex. So overall, the color of a transition metal complex depends on the value of crystal field splitting energy, which is influenced by the type of the ligands and also the geometry of the complex. Now let's look at this example. Copper to ion or Cu2 plus usually appear in blue color. This is because copper has a D9 electron configuration which allow the d electronic transition. When light hit the complex, red or orange light is absorbed while the blue light is reflected. That's why the copper to complex appears in blue.
Did you know the theory of coordination compound was introduced by Alfred Werner? He won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry 1913 for this discovery. What interesting is that he developed this theory before scientists could actually see the molecules. His work helped explain the structure, color, and isomerism of coordination compounds, and is still used today. Lastly, the coordination compounds are made of the central metal ion and ligand. They are important in organic chemistry. From this presentation, we learn about their structure, color, and application. Coordination compounds are used in medicine, biology, and industry. Therefore, this topic helps us understand chemistry and its use in daily life. Thank you.